Hey there! When freight invoices are processed, they should reflect the commercial terms agreed in the rate confirmation. If those two documents are not validated against each other, discrepancies can go unnoticed. In this walkthrough, I'll show you how to structure and validate a rate confirmation against a commercial invoice inside Docxster. For this example, I have selected this rate confirmation document, and we also have this sample freight invoice. Before building the workflow, we define the objective clearly. The invoice must reflect the agreed charges in the rate confirmation that includes base rate, fuel surcharge, accessorials, total payable amounts, and any kind of fields that you deem important in your business workflow. We're not just comparing totals, we are also validating agreements. For this validation to work, both documents must have a structured schema. I have already defined schemas and published them. Now, if you need to know how to do that, I'm going to add a link to a video where I show you exactly how to do that if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not, you could always log into Docxster.com and navigate to resources, how to guides, and you will find it over there. Validation depends on structured data, not just visual similarity. I'm going to log into Docxster, select workflows. I can segregate my workflows based on different folders. I have something called logistics operations here. I'm going to select create flow from scratch. There we go. Every workflow in Docxster begins with a trigger. Now, this could be a new email that you would have received, a new file that's being uploaded to a shared folder. In this case, I'm going to select a simple Docxster form. I'm going to click on empty trigger, select human input and web form. Docxster has already generated a couple of URLs, the published form URL, which is going to be used in production, and a draft form URL, which is to be used for testing. So there we have it, an empty form. Let's start building the form. I'm going to title this rate confirmation validation with invoice. It's always a great practice to name your modules here so it becomes easier to debug your workflows if anything breaks in the future. So this is going to be called ingest documents. So my item number one is going to be the rate confirmation document. The field type is going to be file. My next item is going to be the freight invoice. Select that as file. You could always mark this as required mandatory field. So if you go in here and refresh my form, you see that the form has already been built. Let's go back to the workflow and test this trigger. What I can do right now is upload the file. So I have my rate confirmation document here. For this example workflow, I'm going to select a rate confirmation that has already been matched with a freight invoice. It just makes it easier to build workflows that way. And here's my invoice. Now, once again, I'm using a form to ingest the documents just for this workflow, but you could also pull up information from rate confirmations if it is stored in your TMS, your ERP, or a shared folder. And your freight invoices could always be pulled in from your email service provider. So I would submit that, go back to my workflow, and we see that Docxster has already pulled in the information. My next step is going to be extracting the data from these documents. So Docxster has inbuilt OCRs here. I'm just going to select document OCR, select my rate confirmation, and the document type is going to be a rate confirmation. I have already built a document schema for that. And it's very important that if you're going to be validating data across multiple documents, you check this tab called support validation platform and test that step. So in a few moments, we can see that the data is being extracted from Docxster. While that happens, let me rename this as extract data from rate confirmation. Here we go. There you have it. We have the data extracted from my rate confirmation document. I have the PO number, I have the weight, I have the total amount. My next step would be to extract information from the freight invoice. Go in there, select this document and my previously publish schema of freight invoice. Once again, if you need to know how to do that, I'm going to drop a link in the description below. Test that step. While that happens, rename this to extract data from freight invoice. There we have it. We have the data being extracted from the invoice as well. My next step would be to validate this information. So I'm going to click on add a new step and select validations. We have table validations as well as label validations. I'm going to select the label, and here is where I'm going to apply the rules. For this workflow, let's match if the PO numbers are matching, if the total charges are matching, and if the total weight is matching from both the documents. My rule number one is going to be PO number. Text exactly matches the value from the freight invoice. That's this. My next rule is going to be if the total weight from the rate confirmation document is going to match the value on my invoice. There we go. And my last rule is going to be if the freight charges is going to exactly match with the freight charges on my rate confirmation. We can just test the step. Great. We have a perfect match for all of this. So now that we have the data validated, what can we do with it? I could probably have an approval mechanism. I can create an approval, select internal approval, and add the steps. I could probably send an approval which says data not matching for PO number. Let's go and select the PO number is 12569,271 and say validate. I can also send the specific documents in question. And yeah, this is in case you need a human in the loop to validate the information that is being passed through. I'm gonna select the steps. Oops, I needed to select an assignee. Let that be myself for now. It's test step. So I have data not matching for PO number. Whatever the PO number is, I have the document over here. I also have the document over here. In case a logistics coordinator needs to approve or reject this based on the data extracted, they could either hit accept it or reject it. In either case, you have the power to decide what happens. So let's say maybe I want to send an email that says the data is validated or the data is not validated. So I will send a Gmail or select my own connection. Let's see. In this case, I'm going to send that to myself. Docxster.com. There we go. Invoice for PO number. There we go. Is validated, or let's call that matching. Freight invoice validated. Test that step. I can also duplicate this and have a rejection email sent and say not matching, freight invoice invalidated, and run that test as well. You could also plug in your TMS at this point, and if it's a matching invoice, it goes straight into your accounting software or your TMS. Let me go into my inbox real quick. There we go. I can see invoice for PO number 12569,271 is matching, and in this case, not matching. That's it. All you need to do is then publish the workflow and you are good to go. Let's put this to the test. I'm going to go in here and select the form In production, now what happens if I select something with a weight mismatch? Let's say that's my rate confirmation, and here I'm going to have the invoice and click submit. Now, when you go into your workflow and you click on runs, you can actually see the process working in real time. So the documents have been ingested, you have the data being extracted from the rate confirmation, and then the data is being validated. If you see here, the workflow has paused at this step because that requires a human interaction. So I'm going to go in here, go into action centers, go into validations, and select this specific one. I can see that this rule is valid. The rule 2 is invalid because the estimated weight is not matching with the weight quantity. And rule 3 is also valid. I can go in here, it's already marked as invalid. I can go ahead and submit validation, go back into my workflow, and see that it has also raised an approval request. So I'm going to go back into Action Center, go into Approvals, and select the specific one and say validate the data or don't validate the data. I know that it's not matching, so I'm going to select rejected. Once I do that, I can go back into my workflow, select the runs, and see that the workflow has finished. Go back into my email. I can see that I've already received an email that says invoice for PO 12569 is not matching and freight invoice invalidated. Validating rate confirmations against invoices ensures that billing reflects agreed commercial terms. When structured correctly, this process reduces manual reconciliation and improves consistency. If you'd like a sample validation checklist, feel free to reach out. Thank you.